We're back with another draft video. Today we are here to talk about 5 traps I see dynasty managers make when they are on the clock. So make sure to tune in as we dive into these situations. First up, we got 2. I know I'm cheating already, but 2 with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. Obviously, high-end, similar profiles in terms of high-end draft capital, talented tight ends, and pretty successful college careers. Why would I consider them potential traps for managers? Well, first, if we take a look at some of their profiles, Tyler Warren in his senior year played 16 games, 104 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Obviously, an incredible year, amazing playoff performance as well. I mean, Warren kind of won everyone over. Kind of like Cam Scadaboo. You know, everyone loves Scadaboo after the playoffs, and Warren was similar. If we look at Loveland consistently put up solid stats and had a senior year of 56 receptions, 582 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. Obviously, a big caveat here is he was banged up. He did get injured, so he only played 10 games that year. But 2 very impressive profiles, both landing with top 14 or better draft capital, with Colston Loveland going to the Bears at 10 and Tyler Warren at 14 to the Colts. My issue here is recency biased. Everyone is so used to the players like a Bowers coming in or a Laporta coming in. We forget that players like that just don't come along often. In most leagues, it's really going to be format dependent if I want to take a mid to late first round pick on one of these players. To me, the trap with these tight ends breaks down onto your format. Does your league value tight ends? Is it a deep league where you have to start multiple tight ends? Is it a 2 tight end starting league? Do you have a significant tight end premium? If you don't have these things, realistically, these tight ends aren't going to make a huge impact on your team. It'd probably be better to invest in a running back or a wide receiver in those ranges, or even a quarterback like a Jackson Dart who has a shot of playing a more significant role. It's easy to focus on Bowers and Laporta being amazing, but first round draft capital doesn't lock in tight ends to being an elite prospect or even elite performers on the actual field. Tight end is very top heavy with scoring. So if your league doesn't value tight ends, it's going to be hard to A, actually get points that are meaningful from these players, and B, actually be able to move these players for decent value in the trade market if you do need to move them. The 2 questions I need to ask myself when taking this pick is, do I want to take a high value shot at tight end? And if I do, then I need to start that player. Like, I can't just be like, okay, sick, I'm going to pick him and then not use him. If I'm taking that shot, I expect to start him. B, does it align with my league format? Let's take a look at first and second round tight ends in the past 5 years. We need to take those rose-colored glasses off. Not all tight ends that go high are going to be a Bowers or a Laporta. So this year we had 5 tight ends in the first or second round. Someone like a Mason Taylor, low-key, could be a sneaky value given historical trends, but I'm not going to talk about him right now. If we look at 2024, we obviously had Brock Bowers at 13. Ben Sinnott, we're still looking for him, so maybe he'll finally show up. 2023, we had Dalton Kincaid at 25th. People forget Laporta was actually the 34th pick in that draft. We also had Michael Mayer, 1 pick after that, got nuked by Bowers. Luke Musgrave as the 42nd. The hit rate's pretty low on significant fantasy-producing tight ends that we're seeing in those drafts. And even if you look further, you had Trey McBride as a 55th overall pick, Kyle Pitts as the 4th overall pick, Pat Freiermuth is the 55th. It's not a lock, and a lot of these guys just end up being roster cloggers on your team. So if I'm taking a late first round pick, I kind of want a player that in that second range of players, right? If it's a tight end 2, I'm probably not starting them. If it's a running back 2 or a wide receiver 2, they still serve some sort of role on my team. Next up might be a little controversial. Understand the context I'm coming from. I'm saying TreVeyon Henderson could be a trap. People are steaming him up. While I do like him, I do think is a very exciting prospect. We need to pump the brakes a little bit on him breaking into the top 5 of some drafts, going ahead of Cam Ward or Travis Hunter or players like that. Why do I say that? He was the 30th pick to the New England Patriots, which is a high draft capital to take on a running back and a decent landing spot in the New England Patriots. In college, he rushed for 1,016 yards on 144 carries with a 7.1 yards per carry his senior year with 10 touchdowns, and he also had a receiving touchdown and 200 yards. Very impressive college career with over 3,000 rushing yards, 853 receiving yards, and 48 total touchdowns from scrimmage throughout his collegiate career. As well as he racked up awards as a 3-time All-Big Ten selection, first team in 2023, a second team in 2021, and third team in 2024. He did miss some time in 2022 and 2023 due to a foot and ankle knee injuries, but he had an amazing 4.43 second 40-yard dash and great measurables. My question here, after going through all that, you could say, wow, this does look really good. This class at running back is relatively deep, and there's a lot of other options that are similar bets in my opinion. We still have the Ramondre Stevenson question. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Henderson's going to come in and just demand 80, 90% of the snaps. It's probably going to be some sort of timeshare situation. If we look at other running backs in similar spots with draft capital this year, if you look at Quinshon Judkins from the Cleveland Browns, he was the 32nd pick overall. He has a much clearer path to actually getting starts, considering that Ford. It doesn't look like they're re-signing Nick Chubb as well. We also have RJ Harvey, my guy, RJ Harvey, the 60th overall pick to the Broncos, has to beat out Jaleel McLaughlin. Again, similar situation of there's kind of a starter, but not a really established starter. And then we can also look at Caleb Johnson, who went in the 3rd round, but at pick 87. All 3 of those players, to me, are also similar bets to Henderson. So why am I paying such a high premium for Henderson? That would be my question. Could I trade back and get a little bit extra on top and then just say, well, I'll take Harvey in a second for TreVeyon? I can kind of hedge my bet if my running back doesn't pan out. I compiled a quick list of some other day 2 running backs from previous drafts. And just to show you, these are all bets, but it's not guaranteed to work out. We have Brooks Benson from last year. Obviously, neither of them turned out to be too exciting. But Chardonnay, Bigsby, Kendre Miller, Breece Hall in 2022 was an early pick to the Jets and didn't really have much competition there. Kenneth Walker as well was a great pick. And Rachaad White was also that year. If you look at a lot of these names, there's a lot of bets. A lot of guys are picked high, right? 32nd overall. Some of them are picked late 2nd, 3rd, and still had a decent shot at making an impact. And that's why, to me, I'm not going to get hung up on it has to be TreVeyon overall. Would I probably pick TreVeyon over them? Gun to my head, sure. I probably do lean Henderson over the other backs, but to me, all the bets are relatively similar. Why am I forcing my hand when I can kind of play it, pick up some additional value? Here's a couple trades, too, that I thought were interesting for TreVeyon Henderson. Right here, we had Ben Sinnott, which I don't care about. We don't need to talk about that. Josh Jacobs in a 26th first for Henderson. Obviously, someone loves Henderson, but if you could pick up Jacobs and a future first, Jacobs is certainly going to outscore Henderson this year, and then you get a future first that you're going to be able to use. That's an incredible deal. Another trade, TreVeyon Henderson and Jordan Love for Amarion Hampton and Cam Ward. Probably downgrade a little bit at quarterback. We don't really know. We haven't seen Ward play. And you probably upgrade a little bit at running back, locking in that 1st round draft capital, running back, and Amarion Hampton. Love those types of deals. You also get a lot younger in that situation. Do you like 2nd round picks? Do you want to waste them? Well, if you do, draft Tyler Shough. Tyler Shough's college career is marked by just being a journeyman quarterback. Right? He had multiple transfers and did have some strong performances. While he is a little bit older, he did finish his college career with impressive numbers at Louisville last year. There's some hope if people want it, but the big surprise here was Tyler Shough was selected by the Saints 40th overall in the 2nd round over guys like Sanders, Milroe as they fell. If we look at his college profile, he did start 12 games with an 8-4 record, threw for 3,195 yards and 23 touchdowns. He was honorable mention in the ACC conference. One comeback player of the year. I mean, congrats. That doesn't really help me out a ton. But basically what I look at here is he's just an uninspiring older quarterback that was a journeyman in college. Why do I pay for him now? Why am I using a second? His opportunity to be sold has already happened, right? This is what I want to happen to a 3rd or 4th round pick, week 8. And all of a sudden Spencer Rattler comes in and I can flip him for a second or something like that. That's when I want to do those types of deals. Not right now, not in the draft. His value is probably the highest it's ever been because once he goes out there and lays a goose egg, he's dead. He's dead in the water. He has to outperform all the stink that he already has. Can he succeed? Sure, he could totally succeed, but I do think the ceiling, like his value ceiling is pretty much already there. He would have to come in, crush it, and earn a job that doesn't get replaced on one of the worst rosters, I think, currently. Unless if something crazy changes, there's a lot of holes on the Saints roster. So I'm very hesitant on even taking Shough in the 2nd round. Like, if he falls to the 3rd, sure, but at this rate, I don't think he will. Let's take a look at a couple trades. Right here, we got Shough, a 2022nd for Kyle Munungai. I think I got it. But I mean, this is a great trade, right? What would I use a second on? Tyler Shough. So I basically just kick his value in the future and just get a late 3rd running back. I like that. Here's 2 interesting deals. Anthony Richardson for Tyler Shough. Give me Anthony Richardson side. Because if Anthony Richardson hits this year, you get all the benefits. If he doesn't, oh well. Like, you basically just got Tyler Shough. So Richardson has all the upside. I want that. If you're not as crazy, if you don't want to chase the high, go after Sam Darnold. Completed 1 day ago. Again, this is a deal where I look at, especially in a 10 team. I mean, neither of these quarterbacks probably matter. But Sam Darnold has a contract, has some sort of commitment, not the most commitment, but a decent enough commitment where Shough is like, hey, he might not even beat out Spencer Rattler. So to me, he just seems kind of like a trap. Like if I have to pick him, it's like, how desperate am I for a quarterback? It's just hard for me to see his value going much higher than it already is, because the assumption is he's going to start. Next up is wide receiver 3 in the NFL draft, Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden was a consistent producer at both Houston and Texas, excelling as a receiver and a dynamic return specialist. He finished his college career with 134 receptions, 1,975 receiving yards, 22 receiving touchdowns, and 2 kick return touchdowns. Obviously, last year he finished with 787 yards at Texas with 8 touchdowns. Honorable mention, all SEC, nice rewards. The big thing that jumped out, he came in, everyone was talking Isaiah Bond, right? He comes into the combine, crushes the combine with a 4.29 40-yard dash. He has great route running ability, and he's versatile both at wide receiver and as a return specialist. So there's certainly some talent there. The issue I have is I feel like we have this every year, is there's always one receiver that everyone just doesn't like, right? And to me, I feel like this year, Matthew Golden is like the Ricky Pearsall. He's the Quentin Johnston type player where even if they are okay, no one really wants to pay that pick. No one really wants to have to take them, even though they are a first-round wide receiver. They already have to overcome such a dynasty opinion hurdle to really, bask in that value that makes it hesitant for me to want to invest a ton in a player like this. And I think, too, one thing we have to consider as well is he may have a slow rookie season. They still have Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Wicks. We don't need to talk about Wicks, but they still have a ton of talent still on that roster. Long-term, he could have, more legs to run on with Watson and Doubs both be on their rookie contracts. But looking at the heat maps for wide receivers, I think realistically, he's kind of the Christian Watson type of replacement. Field stretcher, speed guy that goes for those big plays. And he might take a little bit of Dobbs's kind of outside the numbers work. But in general, I'm not too excited about an offense that already can't give us a reliable fantasy producer. And given that, I feel like he's just going to have a slow start. And if he has a slow start, he already has an uphill battle on opinion. It's going to be hard for Golden to really live up to that value. If you are picking him, you have to know you're in for that commitment. You're in for that long-term commitment of this guy's going to kind of be looking in as a wide receiver 3 in Dynasty probably for a while until he actually establishes himself as a significant starter, which he might not. So let's take a look at a couple trades that I've seen. Matthew Golden in a second for Rome Odunze. Rome doesn't have the stink of Golden. If I can flip a Golden, get a Rome, it's still a little bit risky, but especially in a shallower league like this, 12-team start 8. Give me the Rome upside over a Golden, because at least I know Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are going to throw the ball a ton, whereas Golden, I don't even know how much usage he'll get. Here's another example. If I can take a Matthew Golden, get a Ricky Pearsall and a pick, sure, give it to me, because Ricky Pearsall also has that stink, and frankly, I feel like Ricky Pearsall's situation looks a lot better than where Matthew Golden is. Lastly, it's time for a reality check. Everyone is hyping up Sean Payton's new shiny wide receiver toy, Pat Bryant. In 2024, he set career highs in receptions with 54 and 984 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. So obviously, he had a remarkable 18.2 yards per catch as well. Exciting prospect from Illinois, drafted 74th to the Broncos. So a lot of hype's been going on. Is he the next Michael Thomas? He's the next guy? This is why it's a reality check. Late round wide receivers by third or later, it's just such a dart throw. I've seen people ask, Pat Bryant or second. I'm like, just give me the pick. Give me the flexibility. I can always go buy a Pat Bryant later. But the fact that on average, there's about 10 to 25 wide receivers taken in the third or later in the NFL draft every year, how do I know that Pat Bryant's going to be the one that makes it? Since 2021, there's been approximately 103 wide receivers that have been selected in the third round or later. Only 2 have put up significant fantasy football production. You probably can name them. Puka Nacua, the 177th pick. I mean, he's basically the Tom Brady of wide receivers. And Amon-Ra St. Brown in 2021, he was the 112th pick. Obviously, both Puka Nacua and Amon-Ra St. Brown are locked-in dynasty guys. Let's not act that Pat Bryant's anywhere close to that yet. If I can cash out right now on the hype, I will. I'll cash out on the hype. There's no need for me to hold on to these hype players now. I can always buy back in, right? I'd rather pay a little bit more down the road when people start to realize, Pat Bryant is getting in great usage. He's seeing 13 targets a game, things like that. Think of like how Puka Nacua or Amon-Ra St. Brown's rookie year, where people are like, wait a minute, Puka's getting 15 targets. Is he real? then that's when you can say, yes, I'm going to go out and buy that and pay a little bit more of a price there. I'm just going to take a bunch of dart throws on all these random wide receivers that end up being roster cloggers that I don't want to cut because I took a draft pick on them. I'd rather burn value on proven talent than burn all my roster spots, all my cheaper value on these wide receivers that just have flashes in the pan. For me, I would just say be purposeful with your moves. If people want Pat Bryant, try to see if you can make a deal now. Here's a couple deals I thought that were interesting. In a 0.5 tight end premium league, Jonnu Smith for Pat Bryant and Tank Dell. Tank Dell, rip. Pat Bryant hype. To me, Jonnu is probably a lock as another top tight end this year, given that the offensive line is not going to be significantly improved and the offense likes to use him in a lot of those underneath routes. So Jonnu Smith to me is going to be a very cheap option for solid tight end production. Another great example, hey, you need some running back depth? Trade Pat Bryant, get Brian Robinson. It's not sexy. You're not going to be able to post it on Reddit and have everyone, brag about it, but you're going to have a guy that will probably put up a decent amount of points and still the starter right now in Washington, which is one of the top offenses at this point. Another great example is, hey, can I just get a future third? I can always use that third later, buy back into Pat Bryant. To me, I just don't want to be chasing conspiracy theory. Wide receivers are going to be the next Puka type conversation until I actually see some hard numbers of their production in the NFL. And that wraps up 5 traps I see managers make in this rookie draft. A lot of it too is just process based. You can stick a name on it, but it's really finding different ranges of value and saying, why am I picking at the top end of this value? Or why am I picking random bets that are probably already at their peak in value? Let's try to avoid stepping in crap and walk away with a decent draft. But if you like what you saw, definitely support the channel, like, comment, subscribe. If you got Dynasty trades, we do a weekly trade show Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Definitely come join that. You can just post. We'll riff about your trade for a bit. And of course, as always, check out Dynasty-Daddy.com. It's the best free resource out there. I might be a little bit biased, but that's also why I'm here. Definitely check out DynastyDaddy.com. Live all your roster construction dreams, and I will see y'all next time.